Welcome everyone to the Read Speaker session, checking the accessibility box while still providing all learners a level playing field. I'm Kathy Wood, the Education Partner Manager at Read Speaker, and alongside me today is Paul Stisser, our Director of Business Development. We do want to remind you before we get diving into our session that OLC is encouraging everyone to evaluate the sessions and win prizes. So again, this is just your friendly reminder to please evaluate the session after the recording. So we've got a great agenda for you today. We're going to start off with telling you a little bit about Read Speaker and who benefits from our tools. We're going to talk about universal design of learning. We're going to show you the compatibility implementation of our Read Speaker tools. Paul's going to share a demo, and you're actually going to get to hear a peer interview from Lamar Youngener, who is the Director of Educational Technologies at Florence Darlington Technical College. So buckle up, we've got a great session for you. So who are we? Well, we are a text-to-speech company, but we also include several accessibility tools. We have over 20 years of experience in the education market. We're used by over 1,500 institutions globally. We help everyone, not just a few. And again, we'll go into this more when we talk about universal design of learning. And our products are easy to implement. And Paul's going to talk a little bit more about that in our session. So what is universal design of learning? Well, it's based on scientific insights. It's about providing students with equal opportunities to learn. Works for everyone, not just a few. And it's really about that customizing and adjusting for those individual needs. Now, compatibility. As you can see, we actually have LMS certified integrations with most all major LMSs. And so we really tie into that ease of use when we talk about that LMS compatibility. Paul?
Thanks, Kathy. When we're always talking about universal design for learning, I always think the one thing that we always leave out, and that is it's just good design to offer that multiple means of representation. The one thing that Read Speaker has done to provide our assistive technology and our LMS integration products is we've really worked hard with our partners to offer certified integrations. The first one is our Blackboard, which we offer in a building block. We also will be launching our Blackboard Ultra integration in the fall of 2021. Brightspace by D2L, they're our longest partner. We have a native integration dynamically inside of Brightspace to where if you go into your config settings, you'll see Read Speaker is there. Inside Canvas, we offer multiple levels of integration, but our most popular one is the global plugin. This is a universal design for learning deployment, and it deploys to all users, faculty, or students. Finally, both are centered around the Moodle product versus our Moodle. We offer a building block. And then finally, OpenLMS, which is also a building block. And in there, we're supporting both HTML and documents. To meet the market need, but also some of the guidelines, the expectations of supporting students who have special needs, Read Speaker also offered individual products that can be deployed either within the LMS via an LTI or based on an email. Traditionally, because most of our integrations are through the LMS, the LTI offers a single sign-on, which is great. And then also to read the web content outside of the LMS. We also have a browser extension for your Google or your Firefox and other browser extensions there. Ease of use. One thing that Read Speaker has prided itself on is the ease of implementation. Just click and listen. That is our goal. This aligns with the good design that I always talk about regarding UDL. Read Speaker offers unique users and integration settings with personal devices. Some of the accessibility tools that we offer are Read's word highlighting. Basically, it's synchronized highlighting as it goes along. And it's great for vocabulary building and audio learners. We also offer different fonts and font sizes and color backgrounds. We always talk about the learner's preference. What can we do to provide a great personalization of each user? Not everybody's an online learner and feels comfortable in it. We need to create the most comfortable learning environment for those users. Also is reading rate or the reading speed. It's great for English as a second language learners, being able to listen to the words. This can come back into discussion boards or other things of that nature. The reading speed is really good. Also a great way to consume more content at a faster rate. Enlarged text, great for ADD, ADHD, some cognitive difficulties. Also helps keeping the focus as it's enlarged on the screen. We can get in and showcase some more of that. Text mode, this is one of my favorites because it really allows you to go in and personalize that. And that's breaking it down into the fonts and everything of that nature. I like to call these the old school tools. And the page mask and the reading rulers, they're really the old school reading rulers or cutting your hole out of your paper. Basically, we're just doing that digitally to you. Highlighting, you can go in and highlight your notes. You can actually extract your notes too on a document, which is great. And then the one thing that I'm really proud of is inside of your learning management is the textbook Bookshare integration. There's also integrations with Google Drive and Office 365. However, the Bookshare integration I think is absolutely wonderful because you literally can go from your LMS into TextAid, into Bookshare, and extract their tens of thousands of titles and press, click, and listen dynamically. And it's really a game changer for whether it's sped ed or disability services for students who are looking to consume content and how to get those accessible books also within iframes of LMSs. And that's what ReadSpeaker provides.
Paul, you've given a lot of great information, so why don't we see some of those tools in action? I'm going to stop sharing my screen and allow you to jump over.
Thanks, Kathy. All right, so we are going to get into the demo. We're going to look at three of the most major LMSs that ReadSpeaker is working with. The first one is Canvas by Instructure. What you're looking at here is just an announcement. And what I'm going to do is just showcase the functionality that ReadSpeaker offers. As you can see, we're an example inside of your global navigation. You can just press click to activate it. It is then now made available, and inside of there, you have the ability to just highlight the text if you want, or you can just press click and listen, and it'll read the whole screen. And in doing so, you can just press and listen.
In recognizing Dyslexia Awareness Month, ReadSpeaker is committed to leveling the playing field for learners that learn differently. As today's learners transition from brick and mortar to hybrid to 100% online, this has impacted students with dyslexia.
Since it is Dyslexia Awareness Month here in October, we're real excited to showcase how ReadSpeaker as a UDL functionality, whether they're disclosed or non-disclosed their dyslexia, we're a tool in there to support them. Also, if you break down our toolbar and get into the plain text views, something that I talked about, you can see we have adjusted and pulled that into a plain text. And then when we talk about learner preference, I don't think there's anything more example of a learner preference than, since it's Dyslexic Awareness Month, breaking it down into a open dyslexic font that's made available to the student. So once again, I can adjust the reading rate, I can increase it, decrease the font, or lower the font. And then once again, at a click of a dime, ReadSpeaker can read it for you.
Whether disclosed or non-disclosed, learners benefit from multimodal and UDL models.
So you can hear the example of that. Once again, we're doing everything dynamically on the fly. It's based on the end user's cookies and nothing for the admin to do, just to add it and deploy it via that global plugin. So we're going to close this up. And in an overview, what makes ReadSpeaker different, what differentiates us from the other products in the environment, is you can see that we're right inside the learning management system. We also just don't limit it to supporting pages. So much of it is just beyond the content. It's also into your assignments, into your discussions, and also how to read quizzes. ReadSpeaker not only supports the assessments or the ability to provide the accommodation of reading the quizzes, but we also, because it's embedded inside of Canvas, work with most of your proctoring tools, like Respondus and Proctorio and the other tools in that nature.
And we're actually going to highlight that in a few minutes too after your demo.
So now we're transitioning to Blackboard. Blackboard is an example of this is Blackboard Learn. And what you have here is a very similar integration with the building block. Once again, this deployment will take you, I would say, about 10 minutes to deploy. Real slick and easy to do that. This is an example of just an HTML page or content page. These are examples of ReadSpeaker. And just to give you an example, I'm just gonna press click and listen one more time.
Over the next few lessons, each of these products will be discussed.
All right, so once again, you see the synchronized highlighting, the following along as it goes. The other functionality can be available. Another great example of our ReadSpeaker for Blackboard integration is so nice is that we also support files. So that's going to support your documents, your PDF, your Word doc, your PowerPoints. These are all massive amount of formats that are being offered. But instead of sharing it with inside of Learn, I'm going to share it in the next LMS that we also support it in. So we're going to bounce to the next, is our oldest partner, which is Brightspace by D2L. And inside Brightspace by D2L, we have a really unique integration that we talked about. It's a config setting. So once again, we deploy. We're going to give an example of it. As you can see, it's a PDF format. So we're going to click on that. And in Brightspace, you have two options. You can click on it here or down here. That will say Open in Doc Reader. So we're built right into that. And then this is launching the doc reading functionality inside of Brightspace. Inside of there, as you can see, this is my cookie setting because it is my learning preference. I'm going to bounce back to just the the PDF format. So ReadSpeaker at a click of a button would click and read all of this to you. Also, you have your thumbnail, which allows you to bounce from page to page. So think about it if you have a book and you need to go, to page 15. These are all different examples of that. And all these are functionalities that ReadSpeaker offers inside of our products. Inside of DocReader, we also provide alternative formats. Technically, we have 3 alternative formats that we are offering. The first one is a plain text mode, which you already saw. You can see that this is based on my cookie setting. Once again, honoring Dyslexia Awareness Month. This is my Open Dyslexic font. I have created this and offered it and deployed it in there. The other format, of course, is the ability to add that and download that into an MP3. So the student is allowed to create the MP3. The faculty doesn't have to offer it to the student. The student has that capability of doing it on their own. Once again, the end user's learning preference. And then finally, the most used feature in ReadSpeaker, of course, that I've already showcased twice is streaming content. We're streamers. All right, everybody is streaming like on Netflix or Amazon. Actually, ReadSpeaker is streaming text-to-speech or streaming your content. So we're just going to go on the fly and just give an example of that. Simple implementation, since that's been a theme of ours. Let's get right to there. And once again, you could do a word lookup, you could translate it, but once again, we're just going to listen.
WebReader, answers to frequently asked questions and other documentation, is made available to the customer through the customer portal.
All right, so once again, streaming it, you can see I bounced into page 9, picked on it, clicked it, and reading it. There's other tools that can go along with it. You have the ability to highlight content, to extract that content. That's more of a deeper dive for another time. That functionality is built into the ReadSpeaker offering. And we're real excited to provide these tools to level the playing field for learners as they bounce from brick and mortar to hybrid to 100% online. All right, Kathy, I think the other thing that I'd like to just showcase is another learning preference way of supporting the content inside of your the language. It could be your first language, it could be your second language. But what I want to do is it could also be a language to support your learning experience. So what I would like to do is go back, just give an example, go to just a basic HTML page. We are in the WebReader product. And inside of ReadSpeaker, you can see that we have different languages. So if your content is offered in these languages, we can support and read them. Also, we have a translation tool. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to hop into the Australian English Voice and just go. And once again, you could always navigate. You can see the translate piece, look up, press, click, and listen to the Australian language.
Moving from left to right across these new features, you will see settings, a set of 2 gears.
All right, so you can get an example. My reading rate was turned up a little bit for that, but it was a great example of your ability to bounce back and forth between different languages. Okay, so another example of a setting is going in and adjusting the reading rate or the speed. I'm a little tired, so I'm going to consume content a little bit slower. Also, I'm tired of hearing my instructor talk, so I'm going to change it and put a different dialect on it. This is going to be an example of us reading in British English. Click on it. Once again, you can see my settings and how I've adjusted them. Press, click, and listen.
When you click on the arrow to the right, the button expands to reveal some additional options.
So you can see the preferences between the different voices of Australian or British, or even what I like to describe as US English, to provide that learning experience, but all the different settings. So hopefully you've enjoyed our demo today. And if you have any other questions, we look forward to having them.
So thank you, Paul, for that great demo, just showcasing just some of the tools that we offer. Next, I want to really show you about STEM content. We all know how important math and the sciences are in. And, when we think about learning in a hybrid environment and text-to-speech with STEM content, how does that work? So let's watch this quick video, how ReadSpeaker can read that content.
ReadSpeaker reads both math and STEM content.
Let's read a few math and STEM equations and expressions. The absolute value of the quantity x minus 2 equals x plus 13. The fourth root of 256. The integral between 0 and 1, x dx. Ch sub 3 Ch sub 2 OH is the chemical formula for ethanol. Let's use the snapshot tool to read what number 15 is on the diagram below. Human anatomy. Gallbladder.
So as you can see, the tool was able to read even that complex math. So let's jump into what Paul mentioned earlier about proctoring. Again, when we think about that hybrid environment, or we think about the total online environment, proctoring is very heavily used. And we've chosen to highlight just 3 of the proctoring solutions that we work with. And again, this isn't to say that we don't work with a lot of others. We just chose to highlight 3. And as you'll see in 2 of them, the screen actually looks a little bit darker, and that's because of the lockdown settings. You can't just actually screen grab from it. So we used a different camera to actually record us using a proctoring solution with our tools. So let's take a look.
ReadSpeaker works with many major proctoring software platforms. Let's look at one quiz question in 3 of them. Integrity Advocate. Notice the camera image, which shows that you are using Integrity Advocate.
ReadSpeaker WebReader and quizzes can have different tools available than WebReader has available in content and assignments. True. False.
Respondus Lockdown Browser. The name of the quiz includes Respondus Lockdown Browser. The name and the difference of the browser's appearance indicate you are in the Respondus Lockdown browser.
ReadSpeaker WebReader and quizzes can have different tools available than WebReader has available in content and assignments. True. False.
ProctorU. Notice the screen share block, which indicates that you are using ProctorU.
ReadSpeaker WebReader and quizzes can have different tools available than WebReader has available in content and assignments. True. False.
And again, that's really thinking of having that accessibility for all, even in those quizzes and tests in that proctoring solution. Paul, do you want to add anything before we jump into our voices?
The only thing that I'd like to add, Kathy, is our goal is to support the need of the learning management system, but also support the need of the school and the student of being able to provide that testing accommodation. And in the most used feature is as a reader, and ReadSpeaker can provide that. But not only that, we're going to talk voices shortly. Our voices are the most accurate in the marketplace. So that allows ReadSpeaker to not only provide the integration, but also an accurate reading for students in a online learning environment.
I'm actually going to let you listen to 3 different voices reading this screen, but I do want to mention, you might not think of voices as an accessibility tool, but when you think about being in an online environment or hybrid environment, it can become very monotonous. So being able just to change those voices from either a male to a female, or as Paul showed us, to an Australian accent, it can really help with that focus for a learner. So let's have a listen to just 3 of our voices.
Our voices. Our voices are human-like and relatable.
We have 200 plus voices available in 50 plus languages, with more on the way. We select and record professional voice talents.
Our voices are rated as being the most accurate in the market. Our linguistic team is constantly improving our enunciations.
And that's another good thing to point out, is we actually have our own internal linguistic team. As Paul said, we own the whole chain of that voice creation. And so when we think about having that customization of those voices, if a certain institution had an acronym that they actually wanted to be spoken out every time it was shown on a document or a web page, we can customize it to where it will read that acronym correctly. Say the president of the institution has a French last name, we can customize it to every time it hits that name that it pronounces it correctly. So I think that that's a very valuable thing to keep in mind, is when we create the voices, we have control over actually customizing it and making it truly relatable for your particular institution. So now we've got a great interview we would like to share with you with Lamar Youngener. So Lamar is not only again, a director of educational technologies at an institution, but he also co-founded Vertical Education. And Vertical Education focuses on helping institutions who may be going through an accessibility audit to know what they need to not only just check the boxes, but to really provide their students what they need to be successful. So let's take a quick listen. And if you want to hear more from Lamar, we have the full interview available on our YouTube playlist, and you can contact us for that information. So let's have a listen. So when you were looking at a text-to-speech solution, what problem were you trying to solve?
Well, without going into a whole lot of detail, the state of South Carolina was being looked at pretty closely by the Office of Civil Rights with ADA compliance, and they were looking at basically every state agency, websites and online learning systems, that kind of thing. And so everybody had issues, and we were trying to fix those issues as quickly as we could. And so we had one group looking at the websites that the college manages, and then we had another group with me and some others looking at what we were doing with online education. And so, as faculty are teaching experts, they're not necessarily technology experts. So we had to find a solution that would not overwhelm our faculty. And as you mentioned a few minutes ago, something that integrates with D2L. We just didn't have time to, work with some convoluted, complex system that was going to require, weeks, if not months of our time to get it implemented. And ReadSpeaker was, I guess, as they say, it was exactly what we needed, and it was at the exact right time.
Great. So you kind of went right into my next question on why did you choose ReadSpeaker? Was it just purely because it was integrated in Brightspace, or were there other factors that made y'all choose the ReadSpeaker solution?
No, we obviously talked to, the representatives at ReadSpeaker and the list of benefits. I mean, it was kind of like we had a checklist and you guys were able to check all the boxes. So, the integration was critical because we wanted something we could just kind of sort of plug in and roll with. And then it was also the fact that, it just kind of appeared for our faculty. You didn't have to go into every single document and add something to it. It just showed up. So again, our faculty were appreciative of that. One of the other benefits that's, maybe not, I don't know if it's something you guys really planned or not, but one of the benefits is, you've got learners who learn different ways, and some of them are visual and some of them can read a document and some of them can read, a website and get it, but others can't. Others are auditory learners. And so to be able to have something that a student can click on and listen to the document as they read the document was one of those benefits that I guess we didn't really, realize was going to be a benefit at the time. And so, that when you can hit them visually and auditory, I think students are going to have a much better opportunity to retain that information. So that was something that we really liked as well.
That bimodal way of learning.
Right.
We always like to say Abraham Lincoln actually talked about that in one of his speeches, how you first see it, then you can hear it. It's that bimodal way of learning, and it actually kind of cements that point you're trying to get across. So Lamar, when we think about the ReadSpeaker solution at your institution, do you just solely use it for disability services for those students needing accommodation, or do you use it campus-wide?
We're like a lot of institutions, I'm sure. We create courses in our LMS for every course we offer, whether it's automotive technology, welding, history, English, accounting. They all get a course created, and those faculty are strongly encouraged to put documents in there, whether it's a syllabus or lecture notes or practice quizzes or study guides, whatever it may be. And again, the beauty of ReadSpeaker is it just shows up, just shows up in those documents. And so again, the students can read the documents or they can listen to the documents. And so, it's really out there for every student.
Perfect. Because with ReadSpeaker, we really like to, follow the methodology of the universal design of learning, and, for all students, not just for a few. So that's good to know that it is available to all of your students at the college. Let's jump to things like math and STEM content, and even quizzes. How important is it, in your opinion, for a text-to-speech product to be able to read that type of content?
I mean, it's critical because we have so many students taking those courses. I mean, you can't get a college degree without math. And STEM is becoming more and more prevalent, in society, in our economy, in our schools. And so, if you can't handle that, I mean, you're going to have a tough time making it as a company.
Mm-hmm.
So the fact that you guys have got that working as well as it does, I mean, is huge, because again, a third to 50% of the students are going to be taking some kind of math class. And for it to be able to handle that is very, very important.
Perfect. Do you guys use a proctoring solution on campus?
We do. We're using HonorLock.
Mm-hmm.
And we had one little glitch when we first started with ReadSpeaker. You turn it on and you don't realize all the bells and whistles it has because it's got a lot of them. But one of them is dictionary. And so when the quiz popped up, there was a little icon that said dictionary. And so if there was a vocabulary test, the students were, they're pretty smart. They clicked on this thing called dictionary and they just saw the definition of it. So we had to quickly go in and turn that off. in the quizzes, but again, in a class setting, in a document, being able to click on that little dictionary link and let students kind of, because that's one of those things, they don't want to ask a question in the classroom. What does that word mean? Because, they may think everybody's looking at them or laughing at them or whatever. But when you're in an online environment, you just click on a link and it says dictionary and it gives you the definition of the word. That's very helpful. It's just not very helpful on a test.
Yeah, and we actually made that change in the new quizzing feature in D2L to make sure that that is not turned on. So,
Yeah.
Good note. And when we think about, you mentioned some people just don't want to ask a question in front of the other student. That really goes into even at the college level. A lot of students don't self-identify as needing accommodations, whether it be because they just don't feel comfortable doing it or if it's a financial reason. So again, having those tools for everybody, whether or not they identify as needing accommodation, it's a great feature. So Lamar, as we wrap up, what advice would you give to other educators or, even IT directors when we're thinking about a text-to-speech product and we're talking about accessibility tools, and even when we're thinking about your role in vertical education that is specifically about, specializing and making sure that these institutions have these things available, for these audits. What advice do you have for those out there that may still be shopping around, that haven't yet thought that maybe they need these things at their institution? What are your thoughts?
I mean, the biggest thought is keep it simple. Again, faculty are excellent at teaching. I mean, they know their material inside and out, but they don't necessarily know technology. And so again, the thing about ReadSpeaker is, it's almost like magic. We do the work on the back end and get it set up in the LMS, and it just shows up for the faculty. And so it makes it simple for them. They don't have to go in and try to figure out, how do I code this in HTML so it'll work? It just works. It works on a Word document or it works on a PDF document. So again, simplicity, when it's simple, the faculty are going to buy in. And when the faculty buy in, it makes everybody's job a lot easier. So, there's other products out there, but I've yet to find one that's as simple to use as ReadSpeaker. So, again, we can go into a lot more than that. But again, that for me, that was one of the biggest selling points. Is it's almost, you turn it on and it does what it's supposed to do. And it just doesn't give you any problems. We don't ever have anybody call and saying, ReadSpeaker's not working. ReadSpeaker's not handling this document. It just works. And that's the beauty of the product.
So again, that was just a snippet of my full conversation with Lamar Youngener, but it was very interesting to hear his take on not only providing the accessibility tools for all learners, but his own experience with the ReadSpeaker tool. So I hope just hearing that peer-to-peer interview is helpful in terms of helping you understand the need for not only checking the accessibility box for your institution, but actually going above and beyond and making sure all students are given the tools to succeed. Paul?
Thanks, Kathy. I just would like to, to end with the following slide regarding the ReadSpeaker difference. Once again, we talked about the UDL functionality of just clicking and listening inside of it. ReadSpeaker is compatible with many of the proctoring tools. We highlighted 3, but there's many other that we work with because of our unique integrations with all the major LMSs. The other thing, provides data for tracking tools. I want to be clear on that. We're not violating any GDRP or anything of that nature, but we do share analytics centered around what pages or URLs unique users are clicking on and what tools they're using. So there is ways of reporting back on, and what are they using? Are they using just clicking and listening? Are they downloading into an MP3? All that comes from, we don't know who the students are, of course. However, we do share with you, what course URL that they're utilizing it from. Also, we provide some free support for the life. Our support team is second to none. We're 24/7 and we really address the issues. And I hear it often, ReadSpeaker is a company where I don't want to, I don't know anybody in support because the product just works. And then finally, you have many different tools at your fingertip without scrolling. Once again, the ability to just listen and going from there. And we offer more for less than any of our competitors out there, because often there are gaps that they're struggling in, while ReadSpeaker offers a complete suite of learning tools to support not only the LMS, the individual tools, to offline functionality, and also if there's a unique voice or language that your university or school needs to support, ReadSpeaker can also step in and work with you, create that text-to-speech voice, or a branded voice and a popular person from your school, and then make that voice available, almost like cloning the voice and go from there. It would be a unique voice for your institution of learning. Thanks, Kathy.
So as we wrap up, I want to just share some of our contact information as well as our website that you can find all the information about our educational tools. We also have individual pages for each LMS. So if you are a specific Canvas user, Blackboard user, Moodle, there's specific pages where you can actually see the how-to videos and just get more information for your particular LMS and how ReadSpeaker works with it. We hope that you gathered a lot of information today, and we hope to hear from you. Again, we do offer demos, personal demos. We do offer a sandbox that you can test our tools in your own environment. So if that's something you're interested in, please jot down our email addresses, reach out to us, and we'll be glad to help you see the ReadSpeaker difference in your own at your own institution.
And also stop by our OLC booth.
Thank you all.
Thank you.